Barda might secretly be one of the most insane characters ever created by DC Comics. Yet somehow, almost nobody talks about her, which is genuinely wild when you consider that this woman was raised by Darkseid, stolen as a child, trained by basically nightmare military grandma, trained to become one of the deadliest warriors in all of the universe, and somehow still ends up in the healthiest relationship in all of comics. How? Seriously, how do you go from raised in comic book hell to become a living weapon to actually, I think I would like peace, love, and domestic bliss, thank you. No, really, how does that happen? Then I started digging into Big Barda lore, and folks, things got dark. We're talking state-controlled children, psychological conditioning, a planet where freedom barely exists, if at all, and somehow underneath all of that, one of the most unexpectedly human stories in DC Comics. So after researching Big Barda, I have questions. Mostly, why has DC been sleeping on this woman? Hi guys, welcome back to another breakdown on comics, and I'm your host, Danny. If you're new, welcome. Here we talk comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows. Are you sensing a pattern here? Generally speaking, just all kinds of wonderfully nerdy chaos. If you enjoy that sort of thing, do me a huge favor. If you don't mind, takes 2 seconds. Hit that like button, please subscribe, and ring that notification bell so hopefully YouTube will let you know when I am back with another one of these uploads. Today I am breaking down one of my new personal favorites of all time, Big Barda. Now when I do my breakdowns, I am doing my makeup at the same time, but don't panic. I'm not going to bore you with the cosmetic details, okay? I mean, if you're curious, I've left all the products and the links in the description below. My hands just like to have something to do while I'm, going down comic rabbit holes and stuff. We gotta talk about Big Barda. I genuinely think that DC has been sleeping on one of its coolest characters for far too long. I mean, most people know who Wonder Woman is. I love Wonder Woman. Everybody knows Harley Quinn. Still haven't decided if that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point. Poison Ivy gets attention. Big Barda, not nearly enough. Which feels crazy, nay, just mental, when you realize we're talking about a 7-foot warrior goddess, okay? Raised by Darkseid, escaped actual cosmic fascism. Okay, kids, this is what actual fascism is. We're going to discuss that today. And somehow ended up in one of the healthiest marriages you have ever seen. And I don't just mean like in comic books. I mean like in literature, media, and probably out of all the people you know. She feels weirdly underrated. This is not just big strong lady in cool armor. There is actually something way more human happening here. Identity, survival, trying to figure out who you are after somebody else spent your whole life deciding that for you. It's heavy stuff. But also, comic books are weird. So naturally, there's still some cosmic nonsense. Giant weapons, intergalactic drama, and one deeply terrifying woman named Granny Goodness that we seriously need to discuss. First, though, we gotta talk about where the idea of Big Barda even came from. And oddly enough, the real-life inspiration behind her is kind of adorable. Big Barda was created by the legendary Jack Kirby. Now, if you know comics, that name carries weight. That man helped create or co-create Captain America, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Thor, Hulk, the Black Panther, the Avengers. Like, they don't call him the king for nothing. Comic books would look very different without Jack Kirby. The early 1970s roll around, Kirby leaves Marvel Comics and heads on over to DC. And he basically decides, you know what? I'm going to get weird. Yeah, I'm going to get weird. Thank God. Because out of this comes the fourth world. That gives us Darkseid, Mr. Miracle, Orion, the New Gods, Apokolips, New Genesis, and of course, our girl Big Barda. Her first appearance lands in Mr. Miracle #4 back in 1971, which honestly makes sense considering her story and Scott Free's Mr. Miracle are so tied together, it almost feels like a crime if you were to separate them. Now, this part I love. Big Barda was reportedly inspired by Jack Kirby's wife, Roz Kirby. Apparently, Roz had a huge personality, strong opinions, strong presence. Very much not the kind of woman anybody pushed around. Suddenly, Big Barda starts to make a lot more sense. Am I right? Jack Kirby basically looked at his beautiful wife and said, okay. But now hear me out. What if she was 7 feet tall and could throw a tank? Huh? Like, honestly, relationship goals. Imagine being so iconic that your spouse actually turns you into comic book mythology. That's the kind of romance I would strive for. Meanwhile, my legacy would be she yelled at me about dirty socks a lot. But once you know this part, Big Barda clicks differently. Yeah, she's intimidating. Yeah, she could absolutely ruin someone's life. But underneath all of that, though, there's warmth there, protectiveness, loyalty, heart. And that part matters a lot more than people realize, especially when you see what she survives. Because before Big Barda ever became one of DC's most intimidating women, she had to survive one of the worst childhoods imaginable. And that story takes place on a planet whose travel agency marketed the place as suffering, but with infrastructure. Now that we know where the idea of Big Barda has come from, we need to talk about where Big Barda herself, the fictional character, hails from. Where she grew up. Her fictional home is rough because Big Barda grew up on a planet called Apokolips. If you're not super familiar with DC's fourth world stuff, don't worry, I got you. Apokolips is essentially the evil opposite to a planet called New Genesis. In New Genesis, beautiful, peaceful, hopeful. Everybody seems spiritually and emotionally regulated. You just know that everyone there smells faintly of expensive candles and healthy established boundaries. Meanwhile, Apokolips looks like Satan industrialized misery. It's hell. It's cosmic hell. Everything is steel. Everything is fire. Everyone seems one inconvenience away from a complete emotional collapse. The vibes, awful. At least Gotham occasionally gets sunlight, you know? Apokolips feels like somebody looked at happiness and said, no, absolutely not. We are not doing that here. No, not for us. Nobody is healing. Nobody is journaling. Nobody is unpacking trauma, probably because they are still actively collecting more of it all of the time. Which brings us to the guy running the whole nightmare, Darkseid. And if you somehow do not know who Darkseid is, honestly, good job. That's kind of impressive. I'm impressed. I don't know how you've avoided that at this point. Darkseid isn't just a villain. This guy is the villain. Control, obsessed. Fear, big fan. Breaking people until they become useful, very much on brand for him. Like, that's the mission statement. Freedom, choice, joy, not exactly encouraged there. which becomes a problem if you happen to be born on Apokolips. Because this planet, love, family, choice, those are luxuries most people don't get. No exaggeration. Darkseid built what were essentially breeding programs. The strongest warriors on Apokolips would be selected as something called breeding templates. Fun. And no, there was nothing romantic going on here. Darkseid's scientists would pair genetics together to create stronger soldiers, meaner soldiers, more obedient soldiers, which is horrifying enough already. Things somehow get worse. Every child born into this system immediately becomes property of Apokolips, property of Darkseid. They are taken from their parents, raised by the state, and sent to something called Granny Goodness Terror Orphanages. We need to stop right here for a second and appreciate that Jack Kirby came up with Granny Goodness Terror Orphanages. Like, it is one of the most aggressively upsetting combination of words you could put together. Like, Jack Kirby is at DC Comics, and everyone's like, Jack, we've done orphans and orphanages a lot here at DC Comics. Like, we've done it a lot, okay? So you're not really giving us anything new. And Jack Kirby's like, bet. How about this, though? Granny Goodness's Terror Orphanages. Now, this is where Big Barda's story gets really interesting because Barda's mother, Big Breeda, I know, just let it go, okay? Let it go. Big Breeda is an absolute powerhouse, one of Apokolips's fiercest warriors, legendary status, strong enough that Darkseid specifically selects her for one of those genetic programs. I mean, obviously, her name, Big Breeda. Only Big Breeda breaks the rules, which I deeply respect. Instead of accepting Darkseid's forced pairings, Breeda secretly steals a genetic sample from a warrior she actually loves. Let's think about that sentence right there. She steals a genetic sample of a warrior she actually loves. She stole I mean, go girl. Get you some. I'm supportive. I'm being supportive. Ma'am, first, ew. Second, the level of risk here, unhinged. To just legit break Darkseid's rules and think you're just gonna go sneaky snake all around space Satan. Like, she must really love this dude, really wanted to have his baby. This woman looked at Darkseid's nightmare system and says no, and somehow she gets away with it for a time. Then the story somehow gets even wilder. During the rising of the dregs, while actively fighting on the battlefield, Big Breeda goes into labor and gives birth. Let me say this again clearly to you so you understand what I am saying. Active battle, combat all around you on a battlefield. Pregnant lady goes into labor and gives birth to a tiny little baby. Battlefield still going on, still happening, has baby. Like, what? Listen, let me tell you something. For those who don't know, I am a mom. I've had 4 children, and I needed silence. And okay? I needed both of those things. You're telling me that combat is still happening and you give birth. Not me. Can't relate. Since Barda was literally born during war, Breeda gives her an ancient name that means born in war. Barda. I mean, it's perfect, but also heartbreaking at the same time. Because from the second that Barda enters this world, violence is normal. War is normal. Surviving, fighting for your survival, that's normal. Peace, not really part of the environment, okay? And if this story was not bleak enough, Barda doesn't get to stay with her mother. Eventually, the system finds out. Barda gets taken away, her childhood completely gone. She ends up exactly where Darkseid intended her to be from the beginning, in Granny Goodness's Terror Orphanage. Meaning, despite everything that Big Barda did to try and save her daughter, Barda still gets thrown right into the machine, which says a lot about the kind of world that she grew up in. Big Barda never got a chance to have anything normal. Not once, not during her childhood. Then somehow, despite all of that, she still becomes who she becomes, which explains a lot why this character is so compelling later. But before Barda gets the chance to become the woman that fans love, we gotta talk about the person that helped shape her into one of the deadliest people in the DC universe, Granny Goodness. And this woman, nightmare fuel. That name sounds like somebody who should be baking cookies and aggressively asking why you never call. No, not even close. Imagine if a grandmother, a drill sergeant, and a cult leader all merged into one person. That's Granny Goodness. Her entire job: take children, break them psychologically, destroy their individuality, then turn them into loyal soldiers of Darkseid. That was the assignment. And Barda, even on a planet of violent monsters hell-bent on killing you, Barda stands out. Bigger, stronger, more disciplined. When I say Big Barda is big, I mean big. This woman stands around 7 feet tall. 7 feet! Built like somebody took a Greek goddess, a tank, and pure intimidation and said, you just shake that all together. Just mush it together. Then DC tries to tell us she weighs 197 pounds. Girl, where is it? Comic book math remains one of fiction's greatest mysteries. I mean, she is so intimidating. You see Big Barda walking towards you, you immediately start reconsidering your life choices that has led you to this moment. Then there's the armor. The armor goes hard. Heavy-duty battle armor built to survive Apokolips. Very much giving, you have made a mistake here. Then there's the Mega Rod, which does sound vaguely inappropriate, but happens to be one of the deadliest weapons in DC. We're talking energy blasts, force fields, boom tube teleportation, general catastrophic levels of just destruction. Basically a Swiss Army life of leave me the alone, okay? I've asked you nicely 10 times. Just back the up. I mean, I'd like one. Eventually, Big Barda rises through the ranks and becomes the leader of Darkseid's Female Furies. And I kind of do like that name. Like, I know in this day and age, it feels a little trite, but is there anything more annoying or tenacious or unstoppable than a woman's fury? I mean, think about it. But the Female Furies were Darkseid's elite warriors, the elite forces of Apokolips. Not assistants, not sidekicks, not girls get it done with matching jackets and, hairdos and stuff. They were terrifying, okay? These were planet-flattening military special forces. And Barda, she led them. Darkseid trusted very few. So the fact that Barda rises to the top should tell you everything. She was not just powerful. She was exceptional. At this point, Barda was exactly what Apokolips wanted her to be. Loyal, deadly, efficient, a perfect weapon. Only there's one problem. Something deep inside Barda never fully breaks. Just tiny crack. Massive consequences, because eventually someone enters the picture who changes everything. And somehow, person who completely flips one of Darkseid's deadliest warriors upside down is basically the king of, nope, I'm out. But before we get into Mr. Miracle, we gotta talk about the deeply dysfunctional cosmic family drama between Darkseid and Highfather. Trust me, this gets messy. Before Big Barda and Scott Free became DC's version of, yeah, technically this relationship should not be working, we need a little bit of context because these worlds, they do not just dislike each other. There is cosmic generational beef. Think Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, but Jack Kirby wrote it and it's in space. Everybody involved has baggage, a lot of baggage. Here is a simplified version of Fourth World lore. Long ago, the old gods basically destroyed themselves in a catastrophic war. Very normal comic book behavior. Out of the destruction, two entirely new worlds emerge near the source: New Genesis and Apokolips. Could not be more opposite if they tried. New Genesis becomes this place centered around freedom, growth, hope, choice. Everybody seems spiritually evolved. You just know they're drinking herbal tea and saying things like, "Have you tried healing?" Meanwhile, Apokolips doubles down on fear, control, obedience. Darkseid genuinely believes freedom makes people weak. Highfather very much disagrees. One side believes that people need and deserve freedom to thrive, and the other side believes that control creates order. You could probably imagine how peaceful and fun that conversation went. Eventually, war, big war, ugly war, the kind of war that makes you realize, like, hey, we should probably stop before every single one of us is dead. A peace treaty gets proposed, and this part, it's kind of devastating, but not something that didn't come inspired by actual historical events. They maintain peace by Highfather and Darkseid exchanging sons. Highfather gives up Scott Free, who becomes Mr. Miracle. Darkseid gives up his son, Orion. And honestly, Scott gets end of the deal. He gets sent to Apokolips, raised under Granny Goodness. Now, this is where Big Barda and Scott Free's stories start to kind of mirror one another. Both are raised inside a brutal system, both taught survival first, both shaped by suffering. The difference is Scott never accepts it, not even a little bit. He questions authority, pushes back, refuses to see Apokolips as normal. I mean, honestly, who in their right mind would? And Granny Goodness takes this super personal. What do you mean you don't like it here? Her punishments for him become brutal, psychological, physical, emotional. Eventually, he does the one thing that no one else has ever done. He escapes, and it becomes the foundation for who he is. Mr. Miracle, the greatest escape artist in the universe. This is where Big Barda's story really starts shifting. After Scott escapes Apokolips, Barda gets sent after him. At this point, she is the leader of the Female Furies, one of Darkseid's most trusted warriors. Disciplined, dangerous, very much the person you send to drag somebody back. Only that's not what happens. Somewhere along the way, something changes. And I know literature, comic books really love the whole enemies to lovers, enemies to friends storyline thing, but this one really works. Scott sees Barda as a person, not a weapon, not Darkseid's soldier, not a terrifying leader of the Furies, just a person. And considering how Barda grew up, that changes everything. Imagine your whole life, you're being told who you are, what your purpose is, what gives you value. Then somebody shows up and quietly says, you get to decide that for yourself. That shifts something. Slowly, Barda starts to question things. Darkseid, Apokolips, the life she's always known. And I think that's why Big Barda works so well as a character. Underneath the armor and the giant weapons, there is a story here about rebuilding yourself, trying to figure out who you are after you've survived something harrowing, something that took every cell of your body in survival mode for an extended period of time. Who are you after pain? Eventually, Barda makes a choice, a huge one. She leaves Apokolips, Darkseid, the Furies, everything she has ever known, and leaving something toxic when it is all you have ever known, that takes courage and a certain strength of character to make that leap out into the unknown that doesn't get spoken about enough. But she does it. She chooses freedom. She chooses herself. And yes, she chooses Scott, which leads to one of my favorite things about Big Barda. Against all odds, these two end up in one of the healthiest relationships in all of comics, which, if you read comics regularly, that feels suspicious, just a little sus. So everybody else over here is dealing with secret identities, mind control, temporary death, permanent death, alternate timelines, relationship chaos. Scott and Barda, these two actually like each other. They support each other, protect each other, respect, communication. There is partnership. Of course, Darkseid isn't exactly the kind of guy who loses one of his greatest warriors and suddenly becomes emotionally well-adjusted and handles it well, especially not when losing someone like Big Barda. No. Even after she survives, war, the conditioning, Apokolips, Granny Goodness, childhood in hell, walking away from the only life that she's ever known, you would think Big Barda becomes this endlessly angry, fueled by rage person. Nope. Turns out Barda just mostly wants peace. Yeah. Scratch that. She earned peace. The woman spent her entire existence just surviving. At some point, you are allowed to look around and go, actually, I think I would like a quiet evening. Thank you. They eventually get married. Oh. And comic books actually give us, accidentally, one of most aspirational, healthiest relationships in existence. As crazy as it sounds, Barda actually loves domestic life, which is honestly pretty beautiful when you consider where she comes from. This woman was literally raised to be one of the deadliest warriors in all of existence. And what does she want? A home. Of course she does. What's a home on Earth with her husband? That's the dream. I mean, how gorgeous is that? Growing up surrounded by violence, and Barda chooses peace. After spending her life treated like a weapon, she chooses love. After surviving chaos, she chooses normalcy, or at least whatever normal looks like when your husband is an intergalactic escape artist and cosmic nonsense keeps showing up uninvited. Now, don't get me wrong, Big Barda is still very much Big Barda. She's still terrifying, still fully capable of flattening armies. I mean, she still walks around with the energy of someone who can end an argument with one look, but there's also this really lovable, adorable side to her that fans really connect with. She likes homemaking. She likes building a life with Scott. She likes ordinary, everyday things that we take for granted. Domestic things. Making the bed, cleaning the bathroom. And apparently, cooking is not one of them. Which, I mean, that feels kind of relatable. I can't personally relate, but I'm sure there are some of you out there who can. But imagine surviving Apokolips, fighting gods, leading elite warriors, only for dinner to become your greatest enemy. You really get the sense that if everyone would just leave her alone for one weekend, she would happily stay home with Scott and aggressively protect the vibe. Not gonna lie, I respect that. I do. And I think that's also why fans connect with her so much. Underneath all the armor and intimidation, she wants connection, peace, love, family. I mean, very, very woman coded. She is a true female superhero. These are all things that she never got growing up. And there is something powerful about somebody born in that environment, born in violence, and choosing tenderness. Everybody talks about how strong Big Barda is, how big Big Barda is. Not enough people talk about who she chooses to become, which does bring me to my next question. Exactly how powerful is Big Barda? Short answer, ridiculous. Like ridiculous. Like weirdly underrated levels of ridiculous. Because a lot of people hear Big Barda and they mentally file her under tall lady with cool armor. This woman is a problem, okay? Like, first of all, Big Barda is one of the new gods. She's a new god, which already puts her in an entirely different category than most heroes in DC Comics. We're not talking street level hero, not punches hard and has gadgets. Okay? No. Barda starts with advantages most people could only dream of. Superhuman strength, born with it. Enhanced speed, ridiculous stamina, extreme durability, faster healing, nigh immortality, very, very, very hard to kill. It makes sense when you remember that the new gods are tied to the source. The source of what? Everything. That alone makes her pretty dangerous. When you add the fact that this woman grew up on Apokolips, combat was not optional. Survival, not optional. You adapted. Or Apokolips adapted you. And Barda, she thrived in that environment. Hand-to-hand combat, weapons combat, military tactics, war strategy. Basically, every single imaginable form of, dude, you picked the wrong fight, man. That is Barda. Also, Barda did not just survive and thrive in Apokolips. She rose to the top of the top. Leader of the Female Furies. Again, Darkseid's most trusted warrior. Nobody accidentally falls into that job. You don't fail upward into that job. Then there's, that superhuman strength I first mentioned. When I say strong, I mean strong. Like, we're talking someone capable of holding her own against Kryptonian level threats. Then there's the Mega Rod, which deserves way more respect than it gets. The energy blasts, the force fields, the boom tubes, energy manipulation. I mean, we've been all through this before. It's just absolutely one of the most underrated gadgets in comics. There, I said it. I said what I said. Despite all of this, weirdly, people underestimate Big Barda. She gets overlooked, which feels ridiculous considering she is one of the strongest women in DC. So listen, before the comment section turns into, a war zone, how about I just ask the question and you guys can just battle it out amongst yourselves, okay? Big Barda versus Wonder Woman. Who wins? Fight it out. Genuinely want to know where you land. Like, comic book power scaling is, utter chaos, if we're being honest with each other. But I will say this. Barda deserves way more respect in the power conversation than she usually gets. Still, I maintain her strength is not the thing that makes her interesting. Stay with me. The reason Big Barda works is not the power. It's everything underneath it. Under the trauma, all the bravado. Big Barda chooses compassion and she chooses love. She becomes something completely different than what she was raised to be. And that's hard. That is so hard. Walking away from everything that shaped you and molded you, hard. Rebuilding yourself after all of that survival, after being locked in survival mode your entire life and never knowing anything different, and having to rebuild from ground zero and learning how to turn that off. Hard. Learning who you are outside of all of that pain, almost impossible. That's the thing that sticks with me about Big Barda. Not the armor, not the weapons, not even the power scaling. The woman was literally raised to be this weapon. And I know I keep saying this, but I want to drive this point home. And still, somehow, she manages to become soft in all the places that matter. That is heroism to me personally, as a woman who has been in survival mode and had to come out of it. It's very difficult. She's protective, warm, loving, caring, nurturing, fierce when she's needed to be. And there's something so magical about that. So after all of this, I keep coming to the same question. Why isn't Big Barda a much bigger deal? Seriously, why is this woman not constantly part of the conversation? Let's review what we're working with here, okay? 7 feet tall, all right, born on the battlefield during battle, stolen from her mother, raised by Granny Goodness, survived literal cosmic fascism, rose through the ranks to become Darkseid's most trusted warrior, walked away from everything she had ever known, found love, built a life, ended up in a healthy, loving, committed relationship. That is an incredible character arc, really. And now that I think about it, I think the biggest reason that Big Barda gets so often overlooked is because she doesn't fit neatly into that box. You know what box I'm talking about, the one they like so much for female superheroes these days. The one that says you cannot be strong and feminine and hero and girly or like domestic things at the same time. That one, that box, you know what I'm talking about. But Barda's a totally different story. Barda is a warrior domestic goddess, if I ever saw one, at least an icon for one. She's powerful without being cold, soft without being weak, domestic while still remaining fully capable of absolutely destroying your life if absolutely necessary. I don't know you. She's strong without losing tenderness, feminine without losing power. That balance is incredibly rare, especially today. When I started researching Big Barda in depth, I really thought I was just getting into big space Wonder Woman. And in a sense, sure. What I got instead? Cosmic warfare, nightmare governments, state-controlled child stealing, a 7-foot tall warrior goddess who mostly just wants to enjoy married life in peace. And one of the most human stories ever told in comic books. Not gonna lie, this character completely caught me off guard, like a lot, in a good way. That's all I have for you today on Big Barda. If this video made you curious about her in any way, seriously, get out there and check out some Big Barda comic books. I have linked some in the description below, just in case. There is so much lore, so many stories and so many moments that just can't fit into one video, especially when it's a character that is this layered. Also, don't forget to tell me in the comments, Big Barda, Wonder Woman, who wins? And more importantly, did this video make you appreciate Big Barda just maybe a little bit more? If so, do me a huge favor and just hit that like button for me. It goes a long way. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I've had such a good time with this one. I always appreciate spending a little nerdy chaos time with you guys. Don't forget, keep your eyes peeled, check under your beds, and support indie comics, especially mine. Hello. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
This is my veil legacy. Blood on the threshold, fire in me. Sunlight cuts, but I don't break. You took my past, I'll take your fate. I lost everything that night, but I'm still standing on my feet. You made me into something strong. Now you answer to me. Whoa, na 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 na. Whoa.
Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are gonna get you!